Hey everybody, this is Ryan, or go by the online username Ranior. Here with a video for Zoris's YouTube page. He's been doing a Your Best Game series and has asked members of the community to kind of pick whatever game they want and just kind of show it off and talk through it. I've been thinking for a while on what I would pick, and I have been struggling a bit. Your best game is a little kind of loosely defined, because what exactly is my best game? I don't know. The game I chose to pick here is certainly well played by me. I do some good things, but honestly, even upon rewatching it, there's, plenty of things to point out where I probably could have found a game where I think I made less mistakes. But I also do some really cool stuff in this one, and some kind of unusual stuff, which I think is fun to show off. Although it's also then, is it as useful to learn from somebody doing niche things compared to kind of traditional things? So I don't have great answers for all of that, but hopefully this will be interesting and useful to others. One of the reasons I did pick this game is I've kind of thought that I might want to show this game off for a while because this one sticks in my head. It's actually from like 8 months ago now, but I had hesitated on picking it because it's on the Fire and Ice map, and people don't play on that map as much, and so I think more people are looking how to get good at base map. But, as many are aware, the Board Game Arena Season 4 competition just started up for Terra Mystica, and they've moved it to the Fire and Ice map. And so, fortuitous timing for me, everybody suddenly does want, I think, some more examples and content on the Fire and Ice map. And so here we are. This game was played under what are now the arena conditions for this arena season. We're on Fire and Ice. We're playing with auction, variable turn order, mini expansions, but not landscapes. So this is identical to current arena settings, and that's pretty cool. This game is between me, CS2376 Junior, Logus, and Andas. Andas won the first season of the Fire 2 Open and is a very strong player. Although this was actually kind of right before he peaked up into the 600 ratings. Logus has been a very strong player for a very long time. And CS, some of you may recognize from some of Lumen's content that he puts out. He is a strong player, and me and him, Lumen and Mike Chike, put out some kind of all expert player commentary videos that you can check out some other times too. So I'm going to wind up referring to him as Andrew quite a bit throughout because I know his real life name. So sorry about that. Anyhow, let's actually dive into the game itself now. So when we take a look at this game, I often read the track in reverse, as I think a lot of other strong players recommend. And so the first thing we note is that we have town scoring in round 6. I tend to love this. I tend to love playing games on kind of high econ, and if you have a really good econ, you can often carve out space for 3 towns. If you have a strong econ, you can delay building those towns until round 3 or round 6 to score them, and so there could be a lot of points baked into this event, and we will see that. Some of the other stuff we see is temples in round 5. That doesn't lead to a lot. Round 4 digging. So round 4 digging also can earn a lot of points for a faction, and it works really nicely with town scoring, because in round 4 you can use a bunch of digs to hopefully carve out space for 3 towns, and then score those 3 towns in the final round. So these kind of work together very nicely. Then we have dwelling scoring during round 3. Dwellings in round 3 tends to be good for almost every faction. A lot of factions like to build a temple and a couple of dwellings, do a little bit of stuff early, and then it's often you want to get almost all your dwellings on the board. It also works really nicely with digging because you need lots of workers to fuel any dig strats, and so that all works. And then finally, these opening rounds don't really say a lot. Some people might want to build a big building in round two. That does lead to a few options potentially. And then opening round trading posts, most people are just going to build a temple or they're going to build a stronghold. Regardless, most people are just going to build a trading post. Um, the cult rewards that are important to look at, we have early air spades that can be leveraged by some factions. We have some nice fire bonuses for factions during the mid game. And late game, we have lots of coins, which is very good for people's economy. This temple event, the biggest impact on the game is actually going to probably be from all of these coins. Every priest you send to the cult during the game will kind of get you double econ this game, because if you send it to fire for a worker, it's also going to pay you coins later. If you send it for earth coins, you're going to get lots of coins from that priest. And so priests to the cults are going to be very valuable this game. And that's something we're going to want to work into our plans. Pass tiles, I tend to look at what's absent and what that means for the game. So we are missing trading post pass scoring. That is totally fine, but it tends to mean that you don't necessarily want to build a lot of trading posts early because you can't score them on the pass. And also there's no trading post events on the track. So that just kind of leads to a situation where you're going to want to build your trading posts late. There's not a lot of incentive to build them early. We're missing 4 coins in a cult step. That's kind of one of the least impactful things to be missing from the game, especially when the 6 coin pass tile is still in here. So there's quite a few coins on the pass. There's quite a few coins in the cults. So missing that doesn't really mean a lot. It might mean people move up the cult just a slight bit less because nobody's going to have that tile. But and then finally, the other tile we are missing is temporary shipping. That actually is kind of impactful because a lot of factions tend to like to temp ship on this map, and not having it is going to mean that many might feel the need to advance their shipping in order to reach hexes early on. And that can be a hit to your economy. So all of that's kind of useful to note. So I think the general game plan for a lot of factions is going to be build your temple in round 1, maybe put out a stronghold or a sanctuary in round 2, depending on what you're up to. You're going to get out quite a few dwellings in round 3. A faction might try to do some really heavy digging where they advance dig and make like 6 to 10 digs in round 4. So we might see that. Even if we don't see that, factions might have enough workers and stuff to do a hard dig or 2 during this round and get a couple of points. We likely will see people build a temple. Some people might try to delay taking water 1 until this round with a temple. And then we're likely to see a lot of towns in the last round. I will just briefly speak on late game town rounds right off the bat, because this is kind of the central it's, I think, kind of the overriding theme of this whole game. It's one of the most important points, and so I'll kind of just talk here about some ideas on that for a sec before we even dive into the game. Saving your towns till the end of the game is just 5 points better. So 5 points is certainly not anything to sneeze at, but it's also just 5 points. There's lots of ways to make points in the game, and so scoring your towns earlier is entirely fine. And a lot of times for a lot of factions, when you're building a bunch of stuff early and it's all together, leveraging that economic boost of building a town is very reasonable. And so passing on building towns until late is totally fine. However, if you're going to take an early town, usually people are going to be taking things like coin towns or the 2 key towns. They're going to be taking the low victory point towns that give them a big economic boost, and they're going to be trying to leverage that economy into scoring more during the middle of the game. Conversely, factions that are going to try to delay building their towns until the end game, my argument is if you go for very strong economy in late town games, the people that take the early towns are going to take these kind of low victory point towns, so there will be high victory point towns left until the final round of late town round games. And so if you set up your board correctly and have your towns basically already laid out so that you can instantly take fire 2, you can often nab a bunch of the highest victory point towns in the game, denying them to your opponents and having a very strong scoring. And so I often will advocate in late town rounds to play game plans that involve really high economy, because you can often you can often translate it into points if you play it well. You can make a ton of points in this round if you have a really pretty strong economy. So with all of that in mind, we are second seat here, and Andas is picking first, so he goes ahead and throws in Nomads. Nomads here is certainly reasonable. They're pretty good on this map, and their game plan is looking like probably build a temple, maybe get to push out a stronghold, build a bunch of dwellings, and aim up for 3 towns and doing well on network. That's a good game plan, and they're definitely reasonable here. We'll see what other colors get put in. It's now our turn to pick, and everything I've been saying has said that I love to play high town games. I love to go big econ. This track is looking pretty good for, and the pass tiles look pretty good for scoring as well. There's quite a few ways to score on the pass, and so I'm gonna put in witches. Witches kind of double down on the idea of let's build a bunch of towns for points. Witches can play pretty high economy games. This track is good for witches in terms of you can open temple, you might get this air spade, you can sometimes get a round 2 stronghold, and then follow it up with dwellings, some hard digs. So there's a lot to like for witches here. So I will put them in. Witches are also just very strong on this map. Actually, let's. I'm just gonna go faction by faction here, I guess. So the Nomads game plan. Let's say they often are gonna. Sorry. I'm thinking about how to order this as I'm doing it, which is slightly sloppy. Let's move on. Let's grab all the factions and then dive into their game plans. So anyhow, witches get put in. Andrew here is next up to pick. He throws in Darklings. Darklings are not as good on this map, but still they are obviously generically good. This track looks pretty reasonable to build a round 2 Sanctuary. You can often get away with some really good dig rounds with Darklings, and then aiming for late game towns is totally playable. And then finally we wind up with Chaos Magicians. Chaos Magicians could delay their Sanctuary to round 2 here. They sometimes can get away with building lots of dwellings and going into a dig advance game. And then getting towns late for Chaos can often be a problem, right? So one of the harder things for Chaos Magicians usually is finding town space, because their red hexes are often positioned kind of awkwardly to get easy towns. Most colors often have stretches of pretty easy town area. So like witches, like this little thing, or like some of this is, you only have to dig 3. It takes 3 spades and you get 4 hexes. But Chaos Magicians very rarely have options to make such easy towns. The map is usually not that kind to red. This map is a bit kinder to red, but late towns is still a bit tricky for Chaos often. However, if Chaos engage in a dig type game plan, they often can find ways to dig out towns because they have so many spades available to them. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of tackle the game. Anyhow, now let's before we dive into the bidding, we'll go a little more in depth into kind of what each faction's game plan and starting spots are likely to be here. And I promise the rest of the game is going to move faster than this, but there's a lot to talk about up front, right? So anyhow, Nomads get 3 starting spots here. Chaos Magicians are a little annoying because they're going to take quite a few of the reds out of the game. And they might take some of the yellows, but anyhow, Nomads usually will start here. Here is a pretty good spot to kind of bridge up through this stuff. You could sometimes make a sanctuary town on these 3 hexes, and witches will sometimes start here, so you have a neighbor. So this is a pretty good Nomad spot. Somewhere through these 3 is another pretty good Nomad spot usually. This little section is quite good if you're gonna build a stronghold. You can later sandstorm this hex in order to get right through these. So this could be a pretty good little area anywhere through here. And then the other Nomad spot is kind of iffy. One of the big problems for Nomads on this map is that if you do start here and you start here, your connection can be pretty tricky. It's one of the big issues for a lot of factions on this map. This kind of central landmass kind of creates a separation from this side of the map to this side. So if you start on like the east and the west, or the top and the bottom, figuring out how to get yourself on both sides of this central landmass and still connect is can be trouble. So nomads that do kind of plan to start on these spots, they can sometimes plan on kind of looping around through all of this stuff is one connection path. Another connection path is start like just sandstorming through and like trying to get this hex and ship 3. So uh, that's one of the kind of difficulties for nomads. And then the other difficulty for nomads is actually carving out town space without having to take too many bridges. Bridges are often a fight on this map, just because the waterways are kind of, awkwardly placed right in the middle of the map. So a lot of times you want to start here in order to get leech, but you don't have enough hexes to actually grab in order to make a town, and so then you need to bridge. And because towns are so valuable in this game, there's a lot of incentive to do some of that stuff. So anyhow, nomads don't have super clearly defined town spaces. They have a color neighbor, but they are first seat. They have good pass tiles, and it's still a pretty good track for scoring and options, and they often can still make 3 towns and win network. So I think they're pretty good here. Witch's game plan. The Witch's game plan likely starts here. You probably get Dark Lanes here, and Witches from here is pretty good because you can expand through like this stuff for a town. You can make a town here. Witches sometimes will start here, and you can bridge to make a sanctuary town here. Witches really like this little spot because if you start here, it's just one dig to get 2 hexes. You can make a nice little sanctuary town here. And this matchup, it's pretty likely that you're going to get nomads through this area at some point. Probably. It's no guarantee. You also might get dark lanes up in this area. So you often will have neighbors for this. And one of the bigger issues for witches on this map is that connection, though. If you start like here and here, now you're kind of have that, you're starting on kind of both sides of the map, and this hex becomes really important to your connection, but it's ship 3 away, and affording 3 ship early is very expensive. So this is where the stronghold on this map can be very strong because it helps you secure connection. It's just a strong bit of economy, and the main reason the stronghold though is so strong is on this map is because it helps secure connection, and it allows you to delay your shipping, and you can keep flying to good areas to try to build your towns. So I would expect the witches player in this game to possibly just open stronghold to try to aim for stronghold in round 2, or just build a stronghold even kind of during the middle of the game. Because there's no color neighbors here, this connection hex that looks really critical to them might stay around, but it's still a gamble. Witches will also probably, anyhow, the rest of their game plan is basically get out some dwellings, maybe do a hard dig or 2, and build 3 towns in this round. With Witch's ability, that's 30 points plus the town tiles you take. If you can take high victory point towns, you can literally score like 60 points just off of your towns. And given that game is often, won on about 150 victory points, getting 60 of those just out of the way gives pretty big, can be a nice edge. Darkling's here. Most people probably kind of know what I already listed, but Darkling's game plan is pretty simple. You build a temple, you build a sanctuary, you build dwellings, you dig a bunch, you probably build another temple, you make 2, maybe 3 towns in the last round. Darklings will probably start here and try to get this hex, and then maybe this hex for like a sanctuary town. This is a pretty nice little stretch. The one problem is this hex might get fought over if witches start here. Darklings on this map often like to start here because this is good early leech, and early leech is really important for a lot of factions, and especially Darklings, in order to get out that round 2 sanctuary and still have a good economy. But the big downside on this map for Darklings is that their sanctuary town can be difficult to make because you can't always get enough hexes. But here that looks pretty good. They have no color neighbors. The other starting spot for Darklings is always a little tricky to figure out where it should be, but regardless, you have some good expansion options, you have a pretty good track, you have some fine pass tiles, so Darklings look pretty good here too. And then finally, Chaos Magicians. Chaos Magicians' game plan is kind of the least defined because they have a choice to just start with the sanctuary tile, and they could just build a sanctuary. They also have the option to start with the spade tile, and that gives them another nice opening, and I'll describe that here in just a sec. Um, but Chaos Magicians this game are probably going to have to start here. It's always fun on this map to try to start here because this hex gets so much leech because everybody can build near you and around you. But the danger is if you start here as Chaos, you can get Nomads, Witches, and Darklings starting here. And then the first moves of the game could be Nomads could dig this hex, Darklings or Witches could dig this hex, and you're literally surrounded and you die. Um, Hilariously, we've already had a couple examples of Chaos Magicians this season starting here and getting completely trapped like that. One, Andrew already shared with some of us, and that was, it's just hilarious always to see round one, you're just already trapped and you're dead. So Chaos Magicians probably can't risk that this game, so they probably start here. So they're going to get a lot of leech from Darklings. They're going to build a temple. But the option is they could go Sanctuary. The other nice option with the Spade tile is you build a temple, you take the bridge action, you build here, and then you spade this hex. So you already carve out your Sanctuary town space, and you open with Temple and 2 dwellings. Temple and 2 dwellings is quite a good opening for Chaos, and you then build Sanctuary in round 2. And given the track helps support that plan, I think we may see Chaos go for that game plan, so that's very reasonable. Anyhow, from that position, then Chaos often will try to advance ship a bit and get out some dwellings in round 2 or round 3. Again, they might try to start advancing dig and dig a bunch, or they just use a power action and dig a bit further. Chaos are often happy then building a temple in round 5, trying to take like water 1, air 1, or just other useful stuff. And then late game towns is the biggest issue for Chaos. Often with your Sanctuary, you're going to make a pretty early town, especially if you're going to do this whole bridge thing. So that's one town that you're not going to be able to score during this round. And carving out other town space can be really hard. So Chaos aren't going to get a lot of points off this, but the rest of the game looks quite good for them. So ultimately, with all of those game plans in mind, what do we want to bid on the most? I think Witches are pretty clearly the best here. All 4 of these factions are pretty good on this map, but I think Witches and Mermaids are kind of in a tier of their own, and when they have no color neighbors, I think that's extra concerning, or should be really paid attention to. So I think Witches are very good. I think Darklings are pretty good. This is a good track. They have no color neighbors. They probably get that center Sanctuary town without having to do awkward things, and I think that's worth quite a lot. So I think they're going to have a good game. I think Nomads are just fine here, and I think Chaos are probably just fine to maybe a bit better than that. So I would expect Witches to get bid down a lot. I would expect Darklings to get down to bid down quite a bit. I would expect Chaos to maybe get bid a little, and then Nomads are probably the 30 faction here, despite them still being pretty reasonable, I think. Now, one of the reasons I was hesitant to show this game is because I will not lie, we get bailed out during the bidding because for whatever reasons we have some really bad ideas. It's partly because, again, this game was from like 8 months ago and we were all kind of playing this map a bit back then just for learning. I think Logus has played this map a decent bit on Snellman. I played it a little bit over there, but broadly I don't think any of us were that experienced yet on Fire and Ice, and it does lead me to do some cringy moments during this bidding, but we'll start off. I go ahead and start bidding Witches a little bit. It's pretty good. Andrew immediately starts going Nomads. Logus bids Witches down quite a bit to help speed us along. He's definitely correct. That should be happening. Ondas goes to Darklings at that point. So now we already know Chaos are going to be our 30 faction here. And we start bidding Nomads. I think in hindsight this is quite a mistake. I don't think Nomads should be getting bid here yet. But I largely treat Nomads about equal to Witches throughout the rest of the bidding, and that's pretty wrong. But Nomads are getting aggressively bid here. Logus, you'll note, also just bid on them. So all of us, besides Ondas, kind of thought Nomads were good here. I don't totally know what we were all thinking. I'm thinking we were thinking they could open Temple into like a stronghold and hit a bunch of towns and win network, but a lot of what I said too, you'll note, like where Nomads want to start is not where everybody else is at. Witches are going to get a lot of leech for this game probably from where people are going to be at. Chaos are probably going to be in the center of it all, but Nomads are kind of in the periphery. They're kind of up here, they're kind of down here, they might be over here, but all the action we're talking about is right through here, and Nomads aren't going to be part of that. So all these Nomads bids are way too much, but these Witches bids are right on. We're probably getting pretty close to the point where Chaos are just an incredible deal. They're not. They're good on this map, and it's a pretty good track for them. So I think we're probably all bidding maybe a little too much at this point, but the bidding's gonna keep going for a bit. We're uh, we're at the point where this is way too much for Nomads in this setup, and we are going to be very luckily bailed out of being on Nomads. We still are bidding Nomads because we're fools. Andrew goes to Nomads. This is literally now cheaper than bidding on Nomads, so we go to Witches, and I think this is where it ends because Logus is wisely jumps to Chaos. So, the good news, we have Witches. Uh, and we paid quite a few points for them. We probably paid a little too much compared to Chaos Magicians, but compared to Darklings, I think it's correct. And Nomads are just, we all were very wrong. And by all, Ondas can be excluded from that, but the rest of us three bid them way too much. Anyhow, moving on. We're Witches. I am starting here. This is a great Witches starting spot. Often gets a decent bit of leech. You can expand via a bridge over here. You can carve this town out. And in this matchup, it doesn't look like anybody wants these gray or blue hexes. And avoiding bridges is nice. Our second starting spot. Darklings come over here, which is a little unexpected. This makes these hexes a lot less exciting, especially because Darklings are probably going to take this from us. So we've probably already kind of lost this hex, but that's okay. One option is to start here. It's going to be better early leech, and it lets us do a sanctuary town up here. But now the kind of concerning thing is this: if we sanctuary here, and we like dig through here, we can connect, I guess, on 3 ships. We don't really need these hexes, but we might struggle to get over to this side of the map unless we're definitely building a stronghold early. Another nice option is to just start here. This lets us get away with that single dig, gives us 2 hexes. And I think I want to leverage that this game. I think I want to have the option to do that. I think I want to try to entice Nomads to join us over here right away so that I have a guaranteed neighbor for this stretch. And I think I'm going to go for an early stronghold. It's very good on this map, and I want to do it. So I'm going to start here. Nomads starts down here, which is reasonable enough. Sometimes I would start here and bridge over, but it looks likely at this point. Well, let's let him place his other dwelling. He does go here. So Nomads looks pretty likely here, I think, to try to like carve out through here or through here. They're going to make a town probably maybe bridging to this, like using these hexes, and they're going to try to like win the race to one of these hexes in order to actually give themselves connection. So they'll build out through here, through here, through here, and through here this game. Ultimately, Chaos does decide they have to go here. They maybe could have started center this game and tried to double dig this hex, but they have to be concerned that we're just going to open Stronghold and give them some problems. So they just wisely go here. They do take Spade, so it looks very likely they're going to open Temple, take a bridge, and do this opening line that I talked about. I think that's really good. Ondas goes ahead and takes the Priest. This option for us then, we could take the 2 workers tile and just open Stronghold, but I think there's a better choice here, and that's going to be taking worker power. Right now, none of our opponents have a lot of power. Logus doesn't need spades early. He needs a bridge for his game plan. Darklings are never really a threat to take double dig. And if we take worker power, there's very little way that Nomads are going to take this and try to beat us to double dig. And also, Nomads have, the only neighbor Nomads have is us. So we can just make sure Nomads don't get the power. So we're going to get double dig. And if we get double dig with these starting locations, we get to dig this hex and this hex. And now we have a worker. So now we can, if we open Temple, we can open Temple 4 dwellings. And that's a really strong economic start. So we're definitely going to go for that. And that's the game plan for round 1 here. Now, where to upgrade is an interesting choice. I ultimately choose to put my Temple here because this is where my Sanctuary Town is going to go, is my plan. And I might, if I'm going to build a Stronghold at round 2, I think it's going to go here. So I want to upgrade here. It's not probably going to give me quite as much leech, but it's going to be fine. And so we go ahead and do that. Darklings upgrade where you expect. Chaos upgrade where you expect. And then the Nomads did take the stronghold tile, and they wind up building a stronghold. This is kind of a surprise. I would have expected a temple. One of the reasons that temples are just good generically, right? But temples in this game specifically are extra good because priest production again gives you not only cult rewards once, but it effectively gives you cult rewards twice for every priest you send to the track. Also, chaos magicians are the only kind of culty faction here, and they're not always that culty, and so I think there's a lot of cult victory points to be had for people that send priests to the cults this game. So I think this is probably a further mistake, and I think Nomads are going to really struggle. But anyhow, the texture to the game just changed because Nomads now have 6 sandstorms this game, and it will be very interesting what hexes they take. The upshot is we want these hexes, which they can't touch yet, and we want this stretch, which they can't take yet, and we're already planning to double or take this hex with a dig. And so it looks like we're very safe from any disruption from Nomads, so that part's good news. I do wind up taking double dig because if we built a temple, Nomads would have got enough power for double dig, and as much as I don't think they need double dig if they open stronghold, we can't risk it. So I dig the hexes I talk about, and I go ahead and just build a dwelling. Now, a lot of times people that are planning to take Earth 1 will delay actually building out a dwelling, but I usually just want to build it. I think the tempo of just building it and possibly getting more leech or getting an earlier pass tile and then having priority, like having better tempo on power actions in round 2 is not worth worrying about getting 2 extra points in the early game. I think the tempo matters more, but regardless, either way is an option. Darklings go ahead and just secure this hex. That totally makes sense for them. They really need the workers power action now though, because they presumably still want to go for a temple, but nobody really looks like they want the workers power action unless chaos are faking us out with the spade, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. So they do just take the bridge. Essentially all of us just took our power actions because Nomads building this also meant that there was no race for Earth 1, which is often what happens in the early game. Nomads Sandstorm a green hex. We never really wanted that green hex because we kind of gave up on it. Our current plan is to get one town here, get another town probably just here. We're going to need to fly to this hex in order to secure connection, and then we'd like to find space for a third town, but we have flexibility on that, so we'll get there in a sec. At this point, we have a choice. We could build temple for Earth 1, which is very reasonable, and then build 2 more dwellings, and we would have a temple 4 dwelling opening, and that's quite strong. But people who know me, I do enjoy games where I don't feel compelled to take Earth 1, and this game has 3 pass tiles that I think witches can all try to make use of, and there's tons of victory points, as I said in the track, for if you just kind of play well and do some other stuff. And this air spade we have no way to get unless we take the air 2 favor and go mega crazy econ. And I'm going to do that. This is possibly wrong. Earth 1 is just like a guaranteed-ish, like 20-ish points. And that's very good. But air 2 here gives us a lot of extra resources. It gives us an extra early spade. And I'm hoping that that translates into maybe we build an extra dwelling or 2 during this round, and maybe we get to do an extra dig or 2 in this round, and maybe we get to take better towns in round 6, and we get to take them faster, and maybe then we build a slightly better network, and all of that adds up to points as well. It's just not as clear as the points from Earth 1. So I'm going to take Air 2. It might be a slight little bit of fancy play syndrome, but I actually think it's pretty good here, even with as strong as our economy is early. So I go ahead and do that, which was the main kind of big decision. The rest of this round we'll kind of speed through. The rest of our opponents are doing more or less what you expect. Chaos also now wind up... the only somewhat interesting thing is Chaos winds up taking 2 economic favors. They might have taken Earth 1 here if they thought there was any real risk of them losing it, but at this point, we already committed to a different favor choice. Nomads are nowhere near being able to take a favor. And so Chaos with their Sanctuary will be very able to pick up Earth 1, and so they can just take economy favors here in round 1. Um, Nomads wind up taking the single dig for this Hex, beating Darklings to it. This does secure them connection, and so I think it makes sense in that regard. And now Nomads opened Temple for Dwellings, which is a pretty strong opening. So that part's upshots for them, but they have like no power going forward, so that could be an issue. We build our 2 Dwellings, and Darklings does wind up getting the coins power action, or not coins, they get the workers power action that they wanted, and they also send a priest to fire, and they also now take an economy favors. So nobody actually took Earth 1 this game. We've all gone economy, which makes sense. This is a game that rewards economy. This track rewards economy, and then again on top of it, there really wasn't a rush to Earth 1 because of what a lot of everybody else did, and Darklings are also going to build a Sanctuary next round, and just they can get it then. It's time for us to pass. We have 2 big options here. One is we could take this tile. It helps us build the stronghold, but the big issue is we don't have coins to build the stronghold then. We are already producing 5 workers, and we make 4 power, but that's not enough. We could take this tile and instantly burn in order to take the coins, but that would take us to 4 power tokens, and we really want to be able to double dig for at least a while in order to carve out our town space. So I think we have to take the coins here in order to help fund actually building a stronghold next round. So I go ahead and do that, and everybody else kind of passes for reasonable stuff. We get a Cult Spade. It's going to go here. This is really the only hex that makes sense, and we want to build this. We want to build this stretch of dwellings anyhow. Our stronghold, we plan to go here, and so that we already have a stronghold town here that doesn't require a bridge. We have a sanctuary town here that doesn't require a bridge, and having 2 of our towns already figured out is really nice. So we're going to go ahead, and I think we're just build a trading post here to try to get extra leech when Darklings make their sanctuary. So that looks good to us. Darklings do get a coins power action. They're off to a really good start here. They get to build a sanctuary and then maybe another dwelling or so here. There's also some priests to be sending to the cults, as I talked about. I think that's important here. And we now that we're going to build a stronghold, we don't need to worry about priests for shipping this game, right? So we really want to send priests to cults in order to get lots of coins later and to leverage other cult rewards potentially. So Logos is wisely already aiming all these coins later in the game. So that looks good for Chaos Magicians. We are a bit short of hitting our stronghold. We need 1 more worker and 1 more coin. So we could convert this priest to a worker and use a power as a coin. But we're going to get a bit more leech here anyhow. And on our next turn, I can also take the 3 spot on air and get 4 power back. That's, I think, a really strong move, and I also think it means that we probably just like win the air cult. So I think this is a really solid play for our economy, for future points. So I go ahead and do that. I get more leech here from Darklings. Now, I would prefer to take a worker's power action here next because turning 3 power into a worker is not as good as turning 4 power into 2 workers. But Chaos Magicians are in the same boat we are, where they could take a worker's power action or they could convert a priest to a worker. But they wind up beating us to the workers. So we do some kind of inefficient things here in terms of we have to convert 3 power to a worker, but it kind of immediately comes back because now we already have free dwellings and stuff. So I think this is a good move. Our next action then is, where do we want to fly to? And the answer is this. We just want to connect. There's really no threat to this hex. There's not even really threat to this hex. But if Chaos Magicians winds up advancing ship anytime soon, they could always double dig this, and then we're just kind of dead for connection. And because we've gone Air 2 and an early Stronghold, this is an insane amount of economy that we're just going full out economy. And in order to turn economy into points, we really want to win the network race. So we can't afford to not connect. And this is really the only way we're connecting now, because witches have all, or not witches, nomads have already cut out the whole top. So our flight will be to that hex. I think that's kind of just what it has to be. By the way, we saw Darklings take Earth 1, and now Chaos are going to take Earth 1 and Earth 2. So they're making an early claim to just outright win the Earth Cult and stack up a bunch of coins for later, which looks really good. It's time for us to pass again. These pass tiles are a little underwhelming. We could pass for a couple of... oh, wait, that's not time for us to pass. Sorry, duh. We have to fly. One step behind. We fly. I was about to say, those don't look right. Ondas passes. Chaos sends a priest to a cult. And now, here's what we're looking at. We could take 2 coins and 3 power, but we're not going to advance ship, so that's not very good. We could take 2 workers and 4 points. That's reasonable. Worker, 3 power to coin. It's okay. None of this is really what we need. Next round, we're going to want to build this dwelling, and then we're going to fly to like one other dwelling. Maybe we hard dig. So we don't really need many coins next round, but we have none. But we do now produce 6 power anyhow. So I'm just going to go for the 2 workers and 4 points play, and possibly have a kind of quick round. There's not a ton for us to do. Nomads opens with the coins. That's what we really wanted, so that's unfortunate, but they also really needed it. Darklings go ahead and take a bridge right away. It makes sense. It gets them to 1 more dwelling this round without having to ship, and also it just helps set up for their future town plans. So we don't have a lot of great things to do. We're going to build this dwelling. We can fly somewhere else. We probably will fly like over here, because it's looking like we could make a 3rd town just digging through this stuff pretty easily. We might not get a neighbor for any of these hexes, but we could always like make a 5 hex town and just do 1 expensive trading post and 4 dwellings and take fire 2. So this is a possible future town that we could fly to. But the first action I'm going to take here actually is there's still a 3 spot open on cults. And while Water Cult never actually gives out a cult reward, we're not going to earn this firepower. And we could go for extra coins, but I'm not sure who's actually going to contest us in the Water Cult much yet. Nomads still have no priest production, so they're not contesting cults much. And Chaos have already kind of laid out some other cults they're kind of contesting. And I'm expecting other people to contest Chaos on Earth. So I think Chaos is going to have to try to fight for Fire and Earth. So I think we're going to make a bit of a play to try to win Water this game. So I'm going to take that 3 spot on Water. I think at worst it's going to be like a 4 points for us on Water. And I don't know if we need to chase those Earth coins as much as we are happy to chase points. Chaos goes ahead and takes a double dig. And they take this hex. It makes a lot of sense because it helps them get here. But we now immediately need to be concerned. Chaos are going to build here, and then they could advance their ship, and then they could build here, and then they could hard dig and build this, and then get like here. That not only looks really good for them, and I think they're our biggest competition this game in the early going. Darklings did get cut off from an easy Sanctuary town. They might get to triple dig this later, but they're also kind of over here, and it looks like their connection could be iffy, and yeah, I just think Chaos are at a really good point. And if Chaos gets to here, now we need a bridge for our town rather than this easy stuff. So our next actions are going to be to just lock up these hexes and take this away from Chaos, which slows them down. So yeah, we do see Nomads goes for an Earth 1. So we get locked out of Earth 1, but as you can tell, I don't care. We don't have a lot of points, admittedly, but again, I have a really strong economy, and I hope that I can translate that to points later. We go ahead and actually fly to this dwelling to just take a free one there. That part's a little kind of sad, but it's okay because we don't really need to fly anywhere else. And so just taking this hex is all we really need to do this round. Or not this hex, but we just want to take these 2 hexes, so it was totally fine to fly there. Our Chaos are I think about to head here, or they just advance ship, sorry. So we're just going to build ahead of time. We hard dig, convert power to coin, and build this dwelling. So we've already locked up our stronghold town. Now, we could debate scoring a town early here by building a trading post soon. But I really kind of prefer to wait for this event. We already have such a strong economy. What are we gaining from an early town? It's not clear to me how we're going to leverage an early town for more points. Um, so I'm not going to rush it at least here yet. Chaos do come and we get extra power from that, so that part's nice. So we leech that. Darklings are doing quite a good job here. They have Sanctuary and 6 dwellings out. That's a pretty strong economy for them. And they still have Fire 1 too. So they're doing nice things. I just think like they're a little behind in terms of connection, and it's looking like they have 2 towns, but it's really unclear to me where their 3rd town is going to be. So at this point, we'd like to pass. We partly want to pass because we really need coins power actions. So I think that's what we do here. Yep, but we do pass. Our options are not great. We have a priest and a coin, not very exciting. Worker, 3 power, 2 coin, also not that exciting. 3 coins, 3 power, also not that exciting. But maybe we advance ship early just to start scoring points. Otherwise, I think 3 coins and 3 power is just one of the better choices here. And it also just blocks our opponents from having scoring opportunities as much. So I'm going to just take that one. We gonna speed ahead a little bit here. We do see one of our opponents is going for a coin town. It makes enough sense. Nomads really don't have coins here, and they've already carved out like town space. So getting coins is reasonable for them. And now they still have a sandstorm to build another dwelling this round that they otherwise couldn't as easily afford. I think it's okay, but this is where I do just want to loop back to when you take a coin town, you are passing on an 11 victory point town, right? So he's already saying that these 6 coins are 6 victory points to him, which is maybe true. But he also now just built a town before the town round. So that's also 5 victory points he's giving up. So he's saying these 6 coins are worth like 11 points. And that might be true, but that's a big ask. To turn 6 coins into 11 points, you really have to snowball these resources. This is where I generally think I generally don't like game plans that involve needing to take an early town to kind of keep your economy going in town scoring games. That's so many points you've given up. And ultimately, maybe it's okay. I mean, that's part of what taking Earth 1 and going for an early stronghold, he's kind of, said he's going to get points through Earth 1. Whereas we took the stance, we're going to take an economy favor, and we're not going to have to build early towns to keep our economy alive, and we're going to get to take all high victory point towns while scoring the town scoring round. And this is kind of where I think this game does... This specific track, I think, did really warrant just going big economy, because we don't have to settle for taking early towns. And that's a lot of extra victory points we're earning compared to like what the Nomads just did. So anyhow, we'll continue speeding along. Nomads do have they have a sandstorm and a spade here, and they're going to basically just carve out some town space, which makes a lot of sense. And they'll have to just build on it a bit later here. But we can see that Nomads have a town here, and they have a town here. Now the real question is, how is their stronghold town going to look? And I would expect they're going to take this hex and bridge, and then either they're going to take like this or this. So anyhow, start of this round, we need coins. We take coins. We have a lot of resources now. We could potentially try to get a priest power action and advance our digs twice, and then we would have a bunch of workers with which to dig this round. So that's something to consider. Chaos Magicians does go ahead and advance their digs, so they're partway upgraded, but they have a ton of workers, so they are content enough here to just do a couple of hard digs. Darklings had built up a lot of digs, and they wisely just secure this, so they now have their sanctuary town space. They also have a lot of points, so they've been doing well. We still don't have a lot of points. We're going to accept pretty much every leech we can get this game, because we continue to argue that this game supports turning economy into points, even though we don't have any victory point favors yet. So this is where the priest is here, and we could double advance dig. I definitely think that's a strong option. The biggest downside to it is that it kind of kills all of our coins. And the other reason it kind of sucks is that people are really not contesting the cults. Darklings are sending all their priests to digs this round. Chaos are using their priests to advance their ship and their digs. Nomads has only one priest. The cults are very open, in my opinion. And so I ultimately decide against advancing dig here, I think, because I think I'm seeing that there's lots of cult economy and cult points that are just hanging out. And I would rather use my priests to do that type of stuff. So I go ahead and fly here. I fly here because I'm going to carve out these spaces for my town. I could fly here as an argument, but I think the reason I don't fly here is because I am still sitting on the ship tile, and I might yet advance ship and also like just get to this dwelling without having to fly there. But I don't really know why I picked this hex over this hex, but actually, the other reason to pick this hex is because we might actually get the power to take double dig this round. Nobody else looks like they really want it, and so I think it's partly because I have the flexibility that to go for these hexes. But Andas uses his power to get a priest during a dig round. That's just 4 points for him. Nomads does finally send a priest off to Earth. Makes sense. Gets you some nice coin action. We go ahead and we hard dig. We have a lot of workers. May as well start hard digging and securing some spots. This is committing pretty much to making a third town over here. And again, we have our 3 towns then. We're not going to probably get neighbors for this one. We have a big issue this game in that the only spot we can build discounted trading posts is over here. And we've run out of dwellings. So where are our trading posts going to go? And that part's a bit awkward. But Chaos Magicians goes ahead and just uses a lot of workers to get over here, and that does move them around. But us taking this hex on them really has slowed them down a lot compared to what they could be doing. So we're very happy about that move still. We also have enough power now to double dig, and I believe that's what I'm about to do. I can't build on the hexes, but I can just make them green and get points for them. So Nomads does Sandstorm this. Makes total sense. They're setting up for their town. We do take double dig, and we're just going to carve out a spot for a third town. Now, here's where I'm going to take a moment and this was probably a bit of a mistake for me. And that's mostly because, again, we don't have neighbors, and it might be worth just taking this hex next to Chaos so that we actually have a neighbor to build some trading posts on. The other reason we should do that, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag finally, as some of you have probably been realizing, we haven't actually committed to a 3-town plan yet. Or rather, we haven't committed to an only 3-town plan. We could still 4-town this game. And the 4th town would be right in here. It's these 2 hexes plus this hex. Now, do we guaranteedly get this hex? Not necessarily, except we kind of could guarantee it, because Nomad's town is here. Their other town is looking like a bridge town, and so either they're going to take this hex or this hex. But if we would take this hex and actually build on it before Nomads gets there, there's no way Nomads is going to sandstorm and build this, because it would make one megatown, which is no good. And so I think this dig here is wrong, because I think at this point I was still only seeing 3 towns, but I think I should have tried to start stretching for a 4th town. To make 4 towns work is a bit tricky in Terra Mystica. Without landscapes, you have to build 15 structures, which means you're only leaving 2 things on the board. And in order to do it, it has to be a pretty precise sequence of structures. You have to basically have a stronghold and 3 dwelling town. You have to have a sanctuary, a trading post, and a dwelling town. And then you're going to have a temple, a trading post, and 2 dwelling town. And you'll have a 2 trading post, 2 dwelling town. That uses all 4 trading posts, all 8 dwellings, 1 temple, 1 sanctuary, 1 stronghold. So you have to build all of that stuff. You have to build it, in the right spaces. You have no extra hexes whatsoever outside of your towns. So it's like a really specific build order that you have to keep in mind. But we haven't exceeded it yet. Every structure we have could be part of a town if we really have our mindset to it and start aiming for it. And so I do think this dig was wrong, but I don't think we were dreaming big enough dreams yet, and that was probably an error. But anyhow, the rest of this round, we're going to speed up through a bit. People are just making some trading posts. We also want to make a trading post this round because we want to be able to build a temple next round. There's lots of copies of Water 1, and nobody's rushing it. Again, we have no neighbors, though. So we are going to make a town here regardless. So I'm just going to commit to an expensive trading post. It's a bit... Oh, apparently I'm not yet. Sorry. I send a priest to Earth. Makes total sense. Worth a lot of coins. We need coins. I'm about to commit to an expensive trading post. I kind of just need to do it at some point. Because I don't want to build this yet. It's reasonable that I could build over here and just make a town, but as I just talked about, I think it's around this point in the game that I'm starting to all of a sudden see that Nomads we potentially can set up for a 4-town game. So anyhow, we build the expensive trading post. We pass now. There's not a lot here. I think I just take worker, 3 power, 3 coins as just a lot of resources, and indeed that's what I do. Taking the spade is pretty reasonable, especially if we have 4-town dreams in our head. So I'm not totally sure how much I have 4-town dreams going on yet, but Chaos Magician starts this round and they take the coins. They have a ton of resources and a good number of points. We're very behind in points and we don't have a points pass tile, so that's a bit of a concern. This is going to be Temple for Water 1. And now we have a lot of resources ourselves too, and we're gonna temple for Water 1 as well because we do need some way to make points. I could have taken a sanctuary for Water 1, but again, regardless, I am planning on at least making Network 15 this game. So Network 15 requires another temple to be built at some point. So I may as well build a temple, and I'm going to save the sanctuary for Fire 2 next round. One thing that often should be paid attention to in late town games is when are you going to get Fire 2 and who else wants it. But Darklings pretty clearly doesn't need a Fire 2 this game. Nomads are looking like they don't need a Fire 2 the way they're building their stuff. I think they're going to just build 3 towns without Fire 2. So I don't think there's really any pressure on it. Anyhow, everybody rushes for Water 1, I think. We'll see here. Nomads do take it. So Chaos did lose out on Water 1 by taking the coins, which might have actually been a mistake for them, given how many resources they had. But they want to just advance dig again anyhow. Makes sense. They have fully advanced digging now, and they can carve out some more town space that way. We just start securing our 3rd town at least. Nomads decides to Sandstorm here. So I think this is the moment where I now all of a sudden realize I can 4-town. Nomads could have taken this from us and probably should have. Although taking this makes a lot of sense because if they don't take this, Darklings probably does think about in the final round advancing ship and then trying to like carve out a town space for their 3rd town. But this really cuts Darklings off from ever doing that. Chaos is starting to carve out another town space here, so they're building up for a town. Andas is fighting on the fire cult a bit. We have a bunch of stuff, and again, we don't have any neighbors for trading posts, so we have to make an expensive one. Oh, no, that's not what we do yet. We just send a priest to water. So again, nobody was contesting water, and nobody's been fighting air. So we have 8 coins locked up on the cults, and we have a nice number of points. We are the only faction that's really done like an excellent job of trying to leverage these cult coins. Chaos have admittedly been using a lot of their priests for upgrades, which is fine, but it means they don't have that much of a cult presence at all. We're actually the most culty faction right now, so that's a nice boost for our points, given that we don't really have any. Chaos goes ahead and takes a fire 2 here and an air 1. It's a temple round, so it makes sense, and they're just setting up. Darklings now, interestingly, build a town. I think this is probably a wrong move, but they take the 2 key town. As I just said, there was a lot of cult points kind of hanging up and are available, so good for them. But we're really happy about this. It's one less town that we were interested in that somebody else took. And there's just more great towns for us hanging around. And furthermore, the Darklings doesn't look like they're going to really compete with us on our cults, and it makes it a lot harder for somebody like Chaos to take the 2 key town that would have really annoyed us. So I go ahead and make another expensive trading post. We're never getting a neighbor up here, so we might eventually get Nomads, but it's kind of just too late. So we've now hard dug at least twice this game, and we've made 2 expensive trading posts. So we've done some inefficient things in order to set up these towns, but these towns are just so many points for us. We really would like a points pass tile, so most of this round is kind of just a lane until we get one. We do wind up digging this gray hex because we're finally kind of angling for our 3 town game. We do another hard dig here in order to afford it, but we have so many workers, it doesn't really matter. And we finally have a neighbor for a non-expensive trading post, so that part's good news for us. And we do go ahead and just leverage that right away. Everybody else is kind of just building up their trading posts now that they got Water 1. Chaos Magicians are all of a sudden looking like they might be trying to set up for 2 towns in the town round, and they probably can get away with that, so that's pretty cool. But they're basically out of resources, so I would expect them to pass soon. Darklings look like they're going to pass soon, and so we are going to want one of their pass tiles. And Darklings do indeed pass. And so we will pass for this tile. We're planning on building the sanctuary anyhow. That's just 8 points, and we need points. So we go ahead and do that, and we're getting into the final round now. Other people, yeah, are just setting up their town stuff. Nomads are, as we said, we're probably just overbid, and I'm not sure they did some of the right things, so they're having a bit of a tough time, but Chaos have a lot of points already, and they have 2 towns coming in. You'll note that we're at 35 points this round. Let's keep that number in our head, though, to see where we get, because we are planning on scoring at least 3 towns, and we're still greedily eyeing a 4th. 4 towns is 20 points on the track, 20 points from witches, so that's 40 points, plus whatever towns we take. So that is quite a bit. Now, we have talked about 15 network. To hit 15 network, I need to build a sanctuary, 2 trading posts, and 3 dwellings. I have a free dwelling, so there's that. And I still need to make ship 3 this game. So I admittedly have a ton of things I need to do, but I do have a lot of resources. But I'm going to go ahead and take every leech I get still, as long as they're 3 for 2s or 2 for 1s, because I just think I have that many things I need. Darklings decides to secure their connection right away with their first action, and so we're going to take the coins. We still need resources to build everything that we're talking about, so we're going to just keep taking leech. I am not taking priority on towns here, which is something I said much earlier. I like to really have priority on taking towns, but Darklings could have only made 1 town in front of us. Chaos are not in position to make a town. And Nomads are also basically just making 1 town at a time. So there's enough good towns that we didn't really have to rush for them there. Chaos essentially locks up their cult spots. This is now where we're going to Sanctuary for Fire 2. That is a necessary part of this equation. And so now towns. I really want to take this 8-point town because a couple extra cult steps is not only, it's good points to help really lock up our cults, and it comes with 4 power. So I think that's a no-brainer for us, is just the best town tile. And then I wind up taking another priest town. Another priest town will at least give us options for shipping. It gives us options for fighting cults. And I really want points. So We scored 2 towns here and get a lot of points. We went from 35 points up to 69, so we're starting to make some progress. We just kind of speed along. The next thing to do is probably, actually I think it's build a dwelling here. We have the ability to double dig. I think that's what we're going to do next. We really, in order to make this work, let's run through the quick numbers. We need to build 2 trading posts and 2 dwelling, well, 3 dwellings, but we have a free dwelling. So we need to build 2 trading posts, 2 dwellings. That costs us 6 workers, and we have 9. So we have 1 hard dig. If we're gonna make this 4th town, we need 3 digs. So 1 hard dig and 1 double dig will get us there. We also need 6 coins. We need 10 coins in order to build that stuff. We have that. So we have the resources to do the 3 towns. We just have to actually secure the hexes, and we need the double dig. So we're going to double dig, or not. I lied. So that looks like a mistake from us, but whatever. It doesn't, like, Chaos probably doesn't want to take double dig when they have advanced digging, but we probably should have been securing stuff. But I guess we're probably just racing out our next town here, which is fine. And indeed, we do race out our next town. There's not a lot of great towns left, so we just take a ship town because we do need to go for 3 shipping this game, and so we may as well take ship towns. Other people are taking their actions. We are up to 88 points now. Those 3 towns have done a lot of work. We're still looking like we're going to win 2 cults, and we're going to get at least a good network performance. So it's a lot of post-game points, but our opponents have a lot of in-game points. Here's where we're going to double dig. We're going to take this hex, and we're going to make this one blue, I think. Now, Nomads already committed their stronghold dig over here to make this town, and so this is part of why it's safe to go for this. We're not going to get disrupted by Nomads, and as long as we build this dwelling, Chaos can't really mess with us either. So we go ahead and build that dwelling, and we're pretty safely on the path to making a pretty crazy 4-town game work out. So most of it just plays out here now with others taking actions. I do decline that leech finally. We don't need to take 4 for 3s at this point. We build this trading post, and we get offered another kind of crazy leech that we don't want, but Chaos gets another town here, which is very good for them. They're up to 116 points, plus they're going to pass for even more. So they are looking like our biggest competition, but the good news for us is that network-wise, Nomads are also going to get to 15 structures, so we're going to tie for network, and Chaos is going to get 3rd, so they're only going to get 6 points on network. And Chaos Magician's cults are also pretty bad. Chaos Magicians played a game where they really focused on these town points and advanced digging, and that's totally fair, but they did not contest cults, so they don't really have cult victory points. We go ahead and build this dwelling. We get another town. The town that we need to take is a power town because we do still need to advance ship twice, and so the power town is just enough resources to do that. This is why we were able to decline those leeches earlier. I had calculated this round out and knew that I had, just enough stuff. Otherwise, we would have had to accept some of those power or leeches towards the end in order to afford our ship advances. But we just got another town. So this was 4 towns, which is pretty awesome. As I said earlier, in order to 4 town, all of your structures basically have to be part of your towns, and it's a pretty specific build order. So it's our stronghold, 3 dwellings, our sanctuary with a trading post and a dwelling, 2 trading posts, 2 dwellings, and then trading post, temple, and 2 dwellings. This dig, as I said, is kind of coming back to haunt us. That was a bit of a mistake. We probably should have been more aggressively aiming for this 4th town throughout the game. But we got away with it, which is where we got a bit lucky, right? Nomads could have probably taken this away from us and let a Darklings have a better game. We probably don't hit 4 towns, and without hitting the 4th town, I suspect we are not going to win this. I know we wouldn't win this game without the 4th town. So We wind up sending a priest to air. It just locks it out. Plus, it's enough resource. We still have enough resources to just advance ship twice. Chaos passes, and they're up to 132 points. That's still a lot from where we're at, but we do have a lot of post-game points, and we also do pass for 8, and we're getting some nice points from our ship advances. So, I mean, we're at 114, and then we pass to get to 122. So, I mean, we went from 35 points entering that round to 122 after passing. But, I mean, we got 40 points of towns plus the towns themselves, and then the ship advances and the trading post builds and the pass points. We also wind up getting third place in a cult and 2 cult wins, plus a tie for network, which is really good, right? Like, this is great cult game for us. We actually have the most cult victory points of the table with 18 cult points, which is pretty impressive. But this is where sending our priest to the cults not only paid out coins, but it also gave us endgame victory points. So that was really good. We get our network and we sneak out the win. We get to 155 points, and that's just enough. The Chaos Magicians did have a very strong game. I still suspect they did get... I think we got the bidding really wrong. I think Chaos probably should have been bid a bit, and we might have paid too much for Witches. We got a bit lucky with Witches to get this 4th town, but Witches are really strong on this map, and this was a cool 4-town game. Kind of the final closing thoughts here. As I said much earlier and kind of alluded to throughout, I think we just overbid Nomads a lot. Nomads were just kind of always going to be on the outside of the map and not getting as much leech, and they just always had enough other problems that I don't think they were that likely to be as competitive here. I think Darklands were quite strong, but I think their inability to get any network victory points and to only score 1 town in the town round is really what doomed them. Given what they've built here, it looks like they could have tried harder to aim for 1 town here and 1 town here and made 3 towns. And 1 extra town in the town round here would have been enough to bring them up into at least the mid 140s, if not the 150s themselves, right? So I think that's kind of their biggest failure, was not getting enough towns. Our game was pretty inefficient at a lot of points, right? We awkwardly turned we had to do 3 power for a worker for our stronghold. We had to do not 1, not 2, but 3 expensive trading posts. So we paid 9 extra coins this game just so that we could make a 4th town, basically, and to hit them all during the town rounds. So that's definitely a bit questionable, but it did work out. We also did 3 hard digs. And we had to do a lot of spading this game as well with the power action. And so that's where, I mean, the power of this Air 2 here did, I think, actually work out for us. That extra spade early, along with all the extra power, helped us afford the space for a 4th town. And a 4th town alone was worth, even though it's a power town, because we're Witches and it's a town square round, I mean, it's 16 points. This helped fuel us to 16 points of just towning. Plus, it helped us get a little more points throughout the game and have flexibility to do other things. And so I really do think Air 2 over Earth 1 this game was entirely justified. I think Earth 1 would have been a totally fine game plan here too, but it's always kind of fun to play these games where you really get to leverage the power of economic favor tiles in setups that really allow you to turn economy into points. Again, one of the other hidden ways that we turned our economy into points was we scored all of our towns during the town round, whereas our opponents all kind of felt compelled to score earlier towns. Nomads had to go for an early coin town. Chaos went for an early coin town in order to keep their games going. But taking an early coin town is, again, it's a lot of victory points that you could otherwise get by just delaying and taking high victory towns later. So I think some of that was some of the kind of key decisions here. We set up our towns right. We constantly were sequencing to always give ourselves flexibility in how we could make 4 towns. We got a bit lucky to hit them. We made some really good choices this game in taking the easy cult victory points that were there and also leveraging the points or the event itself. And Yeah, overall, this was just a really fun one. And it's not that often that you get to make 4 towns in a town round, but you can win games where you enter round 6 with just 35 victory points, and apparently, have 120 victory points built up in towns and endgame, and leverage all of that to make your scoring right at the end. Uh, I'm not sure. There's a lot else to say, and I've already talked for 75 minutes, which is probably just a little long. But thanks all for who have listened in and enjoyed this, and thanks Zorus for starting up this series and offering it out. I hope talking through a lot of points and stuff here it will help some people on the Fire and Ice map, and give some people ideas of kind of what they can do and help them in their upcoming arena games and just all their other games. Uh, and finally, we'll spend 20 seconds here on some shameless self promotion for those that do enjoy some of Zorus's content and some of his streaming. I have started streaming a lot of my games. My Twitch here is Ranior Games. I've lately been streaming a bunch of Terra Mystica arena games, and some Fire to Open stuff. I also stream some Agricola and just other games. But for those looking for some more Terra Mystica stuff, check out my Twitch. I'll keep streaming those. I eventually plan to try to get a YouTube channel and upload some there too. So hopefully you can find me there once I actually get around to that. Yeah, thanks all for listening in and checking out what I hope is a pretty cool game. I'll see y'all around. Yeah, goodbye.